Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football Till. I don't think there's a program that's hotter on the recruiting trail across the country than Kalen DeBoer in this Alabama program, landing another commitment, this one coming from four-star cornerback Chuck McDonald from Mater Dei out in California. For those who've been listening for a while, you guys know this is one of my favorite cornerbacks in the class of 2025. And I think most importantly, for the Alabama fans, we're going to get into the film. It's hard not to watch Chuck McDonald and just think this is Malachi Moore 2.0. This is a guy that thrives in that nickel position, playing downhill, tackling in space. And then you start looking at some of the physical traits and say, 6'1.5", 190 pounds. He is put together for someone that's going into a senior year of high school that runs a 10.84 in the 100-meter dash. So you're looking at size, you're looking at long speed. The short area quickness is absolutely off the charts. And then the physicality. And I think you look at Chuck McDonald and say, what box is he not checking heading to this Alabama program? A really, really good player, a really good fit in this Alabama defense. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, just want to say thank you to you guys and a massive shout out to the Alabama fans. It has been just a blast talking this program on the recruiting trail the last couple of weeks, and the amount of support you guys have shown. It truly does mean a lot. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. A lot of commitments to break down for this Alabama team over the next couple of months. And Dill, before we get into Chuck McDonald, let's start with this. I took a lot of heat the last 24 hours as I put out my college football head coach rankings, had Kalen DeBoer as number 4. If Kalen DeBoer can recruit like this at Alabama, he's not going to be number 4 for long. He's going to move up. I think this was one of the best head coaches in the country. I think the big question we had was, can he get it done on the recruiting trail in the SEC? Within the first 6 months, we are quickly getting our answer in terms of how Kalen DeBoer can get it done on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, and that's going to be a huge part because obviously every other box that you want to see checked from your coach, Kalen DeBoer checks. I mean, obviously very, very gifted play caller, constructor of an offense, very, very good at hiring good staff members. And that even includes guys into that player personnel role. I mean, Courtney Morgan, LA guy himself, obviously grew up there, played his high school ball there, has connections to that city. He does an excellent job, I feel like, even at Washington, just the way they managed the transfer portal along with the high school recruiting and married that together to create a couple of really, really good years. And you saw the progression, especially. You saw his first year, what was it, like 9-3? Obviously, the next year they go 14-1 or whatever it was. I mean, that's the type of thing you want to be able to see from your coach. And just because he wasn't at Washington forever, I don't think he ever totally got the recruiting built up the way he maybe could. So that, to me, I mean, every box is checked, and just the way he's gotten off to the races in this recruiting, I think you get me encouraged.
And I think most importantly, you noted, all right, we didn't see top 15 classes from Kalen DeBoer at Washington. One, he was only there for 2 years, but I think more importantly, he's never been at a program that carries the weight Alabama carries on the recruiting trail. And I think the big question was, is it Alabama or Nick Saban that's winning these recruiting battles? And even if it just was Nick Saban, we still had some question marks about, all right, can Kalen DeBoer come in to the SEC and bang with Kirby Smart, bang with Hugh Freeze on the recruiting trail? He has certainly done that, not only on the high school ranks, but in the transfer portal as well. From a player talent acquisition standpoint, Kalen DeBoer is checking a lot of boxes. All right, we're 3 minutes in. Let's start talking about Chuck McDonald. This is absolutely my guy. Really good football player, really good fit in this Alabama defense. And Dill, a lot of people like to overlook the value of that nickel defender. And it is so important in this modern era of college football that you have the ability to put athleticism and coverage ability on the football field, but also having a guy that is not going to be a liability in the run game. You look back at Michigan, the value Mikey Sandstrel had for Michigan, and Chuck McDonald can be that guy for Alabama. Again, really does remind you of Malachi Moore. You turn on the film, the first thing I love is the short area quicks. I mean, the ability to break on the football, take away throwing lanes. I mean, throwing lanes are open until they're not with Chuck McDonald. You take a look at this first play here, reading the quarterback's eye, sitting there in zone cover, sees the quarterback going quick release. I mean, look how much ground he is covering in the split second. He's jumping this route, taking it to the house. He is a twitched up nickel defender that really thrives in that nickel role, because as you get through the film, this is a guy that is really, really good from this spot, getting downhill quickly, closing down on throwing windows, making plays. you're going to see consistently the physicality at the point of attack. And then, hey, man coverage, little wheel route. We're going to be in the hip pocket here, play that football in the air. He is similar to how we talked about with Xavier Brown. Xavier Brown coming from modern day, he was just so polished, right? This was a guy that it's not a surprise to us that Xavier Brown's working in with the ones at Alabama as a true freshman because he was ready day one. Chuck McDonald, in my mind, is another very similar guy. He's going to be ready to play early because he's so polished. Again, in that nickel role, this is what you want to see from nickel defenders, right? Being able to come downhill, physical at the point of attack. Again, this is a 190-pound frame. He is physical when it comes to tackling in the tackle box. Really, really good at man coverage, going up, playing the football. Never panics. I mean, you see a lot of defensive backs when this happens, they're going to panic, waits for the wide receiver's hands, goes and breaks up the pass. When I watch the film of Chuck McDonald, I don't see a hole in his game. And I quite frankly think he's a little under recruited. Again, zone coverage, just taking away throwing windows. Really, really good feel for the back end. And you take a look at what Alabama's doing in this 2025 class. You add Keelan Russell earlier this week till Alabama sitting. They went from what, outside of the top 20 to top 5 awfully quick in the last couple of weeks.
And they're doing their thing, obviously. I had to chalk a little bit when you keep saying that the nickel roll is underrated. I feel like at some point we're all saying the nickel roll is underrated, and at some point I think we all kind of starting to realize it is probably one of the more important positions in football because you kind of look even the way receivers are kind of moving towards a little bit smaller, a little bit more shifty. Gone are the days of the 6'5" guys who do so well. So again, you need cornerbacks and nickels, frankly, both sides who are really versatile, can tackle, can play in the box, can play everywhere. I think that's just the way the defensive back position is kind of moving to an extent. So again, seeing guys like Chuck McDonald, who he'll probably be playing around 210 in college, I would think, maybe 205, 210. That's kind of, again, a really, really good size, I think, for that nickel position because, again, you have the size, physicality to deal with tight ends, deal with running backs, but also have that ability to play the ball and be good, man.
And you mentioned tackling in space. That's really becoming a priority because you look at all these opposing offenses, all they're trying to do is, hey, we're just trying to get the football out in space and make opposing defenses tackle. And if you have a guy like Chuck McDonald who's just not going to miss tackles, again, I hate to keep bringing up Michigan for the Alabama fans, but you look at what made Michigan so good in the secondary. They just did not miss tackles. They didn't give up those big plays. A guy like Chuck McDonald is not going to miss many tackles for this Alabama program. He's as buttoned up as a prospect that you'll see. Another massive get for Alabama. They're just starting to get going on the recruiting trail. This is their 12th commitment, probably going to get up to 25. A lot of commitments to break down over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. Again, if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.